So we're here today for the launch of my book. Flying to Rome in the footsteps of Hannibal, and that was me on the first day. And so as you can see, it was a great trip, and it was a great experience. And I was very lucky to go on this trip knowing that I was writing a book about it. So it was very exciting as an experience, but also professionally. And all my friends from school and university. So my friends from school and university always thought it was quite bizarre that I had such a passion for cycling, but without being a cyclist. And they always thought it was a bit confusing that I would happily watch a day's worth of Tour de France on the TV, but then not watch a football match or get bored after a while of a rugby match or what have you. But for me, I could watch cycling non-stop, and it's always been like that. And ever since family holidays in France, when we went somewhere in Normandy, and I think the Tour de France passed by, and me and my brothers got the bug. And then, like many of you, we watched the highlights program on TV with Phil Liggett and Richie Keys and Paul Sherwin and a very good catchy theme tune. And so we got hooked. But then Gary Imrat, very good. But then, funny enough, after university, I happened to fall into a job in Paris, and it was as you're reading the first chapter of this, it was I was working for Eurosport, and it was the days when sports journalism, minute-by-minute journalism, was really taking off, and that you were doing live coverage for everything. And my boss, Francois Picard, said, "Right, who's into cycling?" And I kind of put my hand up and said, "Yeah, I'm quite into the Tour de France." He said, "Okay, fine, you can be our cycling editor." So all of a sudden I was plunged into all these races which I knew very little about, and all the spring classics and the other races other than the Tour de France. And so it started from there, and it snowballed. And then I never actually still got on the bike throughout those years. And so I was a cycling reporter for 10 years without really cycling. And then I got a call from the editor of a new magazine called Cyclist Magazine. He said, "Look, we like your columns, we've been reading your Blazin Saddles stuff, and we've been following you on Twitter and what have you, and we'd like you to write our back page column. But the focus is very much on your own experiences on the bike and not those of the professionals." To which I said, "Oh, that's a shame, because I don't actually ride a bike." And he said, "Oh, right, do you know anyone else that we can maybe approach for this?" And I said, "Well, look, maybe we can use this to our advantage. Lots of people are taking up cycling now that Bradley Wiggins has won the Tour de France, etc., etc. Maybe I can be, a kind of a vehicle for this, and I can be the 32-year-old who's taking up cycling, but already having that experience, that prior knowledge." And so I decided to take it up. And then within weeks of this happening and us handshaking on this, I got an email from a chap called Dylan, who read my first column in the magazine. And in this first column I'd said, "Right, I want to go and ride the Étape," which is a one-day stage race, a kind of amateur stage sportif. And he wrote to me and said, "Look, I loved your column, but you're aiming too low. I think you should come and join us on our ride from Barcelona to Rome." To which I thought, okay, maybe a couple of days here and there, but I don't think I can get the whole way there. But then suddenly it all fell into place, and I was approached very kindly by my agent, Charlie, who's standing over there in the grey top. And Charlie had been reading some of my columns and things, and he thought there was scope perhaps for a book. And initially we thought maybe a book about Lance Armstrong or something, and we thought of an alternative. The idea was an alternative history of the Lance Armstrong years, and it was very exciting thinking about what may have happened, but then a complete legal minefield, as you can imagine, because suggesting anyone might have won or wouldn't have won because they also were doping, etc. It was going to be tricky, and so we decided let's do something totally fresh. And I was contacted by Dylan, and so I thought, well, this is actually quite a good thing, because Barcelona to Rome, in the footsteps of Hannibal, it was linking up loads of my interests, be it history. I studied Latin, funny enough, at university. I never thought that would serve me, not at university, at school. I never thought that would serve me for anything. And here I was, remembering all those stories about Hannibal that I used to translate, and his elephants and things. And suddenly it seemed a very good idea to combine all my interests, cycling, history, food, of which there's plenty in this book, and kind of just chance encounters and travel and what have you. And it's a historical book as much as it is, I hope, an entertaining kind of jaunty travelogue there's the personal story, but there's also the story of all these cyclists, many of which have a fascinating backstory, and also the Hannibal history, which does. I'd like to think when people pick up this book, they won't think it's very much of a history book, but they'll then be pleasantly surprised that there is this other narrative running through. It gives a bit of momentum, which maybe me on my own couldn't provide. Certainly up some of the hills that we were doing, which were very steep. But anyway, I'm not going to give too much away, because I've already pretty much read the introduction to you. It's a bit better than that, and there are some laughs as well. But look, maybe we can do a reading. I mean, there was. Would that be?
Read a whole book.
Well, yeah. I was trying to think of. I mean, would we like a reading?
Yeah.
Okay, right. And which part? I mean, I could read. I mean, a lot of you probably already perused some of the first pages.
Final chapter.
The bit that you think is the best.
Yeah,
No, that's tricky. I mean, I can give you some options, and you can say what to do. Would you like to hear about my swim in the Mediterranean?
No.
So would you like to hear about the rather grim encounter with a stray dog in a town called Serret?
Yes.
Okay, we'll just bear that in mind. Would you like to hear about another chance encounter with a chap who called himself the Baron?
Yeah.
Who was peeing against his car when I first saw him.
Yeah.
So we've got that. Okay, that's the favourite so far. What about Mont Ventoux?
I've been there, done it.
You've been there, done it. No. Okay, there's that. Okay, well, okay. So which are we thinking?
The
Baron. The Baron.
Ventoux.
Baron.
Okay, we'll start with Ventoux.